club. So I just want to send out love and condolences to all of those folks who have lost someone. We also want to continue to pray for those who are struggling with the continued side effects of having COVID. I also want to strongly encourage you, if you have not already received the vaccination, to be vaccinated. I know that a lot of folks have a lot of different feelings about it for many reasons, and I understand those. I was very nervous myself to take the vaccine. And once I saw personally what happened to my uncle, as I saw my cousins having to wear protective gear like spacesuits as they said goodbye to my uncle on a video, it kind of changed my perspective on things. So I just hope if you're able, that you would, if you're healthy and you're able to do so, that you would become vaccinated. On a happier note, I would like to remind everyone that this Sunday is our 27th annual Community Day at Lincoln Park. That will be from 2:30 to 4:30. There will be fun activities for kids ages 4 to 12. We will have Mary Tees, Mrs. Thompson's Sweet Potato Pie Corner. We will have an entertainment group, Joshua Cooper and Acord and One Accord out of Peoria. This is sponsored by the MLK Committee, the Human Relations Commission, and there is no fee to attend. Also, lots of great food. So barbecue, chicken, hot dogs, hamburgers, and all kinds of good sides. So we hope you will come out and join us for that day. Having no further items of information at this time, Madam Clerk, do we have any petitions, communications, or audience comments?
Yes, Mayor, we do. First, I have Pamela Gorman, 605 Meadowlawn, and she would like to speak regarding the RV ordinance. If you would like to come to the podium, we'll give you 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. And I know I'm on the time limit, so I'll be quick. I just want to start by saying that I was born and raised here in Danville, from Northeast Grade School all the way to Lakeview Nursing School. I've lived here my whole life, been a taxpayer, a hard worker. One of the things that I was able to do is to get myself a camper. And we have a asphalt driveway that's got kind of over to the side where I have my RV parked. And so the reason I'm here is about this new ordinance. Now I say new only because, and it may not be new, but prior to this, I had a pop-up camper in the same spot for about 3 years. This one is a full camper. The other issue that I have with this is the way that I was notified. I came home on June the 24th on a Saturday and had a letter in my mailbox. And it told me that I had to appear in court in August because they had notified me in April that I was in violation of this ordinance. I never received a letter in April. So I filled out a FOIA request and sent that in. I did receive back, 2 of the things that I asked for was a copy of the letter from April. Still did not receive that. I got a letter from June, which is the letter that I got. I also asked for a copy of all of the violations that were handed out in the last 2 months. And I did some research after I got those copies. And I did some driving around town. And there are several violations on there that say that they're in compliance, that are not in compliance. The ordinance, for those that aren't familiar with it, states that you have to be parked in your side yard or your backyard. And unfortunately, we don't have a side yard and we have a privacy fence that I cannot get the camper into the backyard. Now, the reason I'm so frustrated with this is because, first of all, I pay property taxes. I also pay for a license sticker on this RV that's almost as much as my auto sticker. My auto sits in my driveway and there's no concern there. I understand about the age of old RVs and that kind of thing, and you know, I've been told that there's a possibility people are living in RVs. I can guarantee you I'm not. You know, I think there's a lot of signs that would show you that they are. If there's electricity plugged in, hooked up to the RV, you know, that would be a right there, a red flag. But I'm also concerned because I know, you know, they're talking about cleaning up Danville, and I'm all for that because, like I said, I was born and raised here. My concerns are, what about living in your car? That's loitering. That's not allowed. I know for a fact that there's a car that sits in the same spot. Probably for 5 years it's been there. People that have lost their driver's license that are riding around on motorized bicycles, lawnmowers. You know, I'm not picking on anybody, but I'm feeling like I've been kind of picked on. And I'll tell you why. One person on the road behind me got a ticket as well for the RV. There's a boat 5 houses down that's sitting right there in the driveway. They didn't get any kind of a notification, and it's not on this list. You know, I'm not here to cause problems, and I'm not wanting to not follow rules, but I'd like a little consistency across the board. I mean, this isn't fair when you go and you see all these boats and RV or utility trailers sitting out. You know, if you're gonna pick on one person, an RV owner, pick on the boat owners too. Because right here in this ordinance, it says RV, watercraft, which is a boat, utility trailer. So that's my concerns, you know, I appreciate you letting me address them, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Gorman. We will be in touch. This is an issue that we are working on.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I have the Patels regarding gaming license at 121 South Gilbert. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for allowing us a couple of minutes to talk about. My name is Rajesh Patel, and I have Taylor with us as a representative. We started our business sometime in January, and hoping that there was a couple emails, previous owner already started. So we did improvements about close to $10,000, with knowing that there are some letters what we are receiving to cooperate with the city guidelines, do the remodeling accordingly, and also we are paying $3,500 rent for the other corporations. So there is something more to talk. I hope you allow to the Taylor also to speak few words also.
Hello, my name is Taylor Lemmick. I'm an attorney. I represent the Patels. So our issue really stems from a few things. The application process for the gaming license seems to be very inconsistent.
Pardon me, ma'am. Could you please lower them? Thank you.
Better?
Yes, ma'am.
So the application for the gaming license seems to be fairly inconsistent. If someone could explain to us the process for that, that'd be very helpful. I was also told by someone in the clerk's office that there were 30 licenses that were awarded. However, if you look at chapter 118, which specifies the number of licenses awarded, it's very ambiguous. And it says 30 doesn't say, is it yearly? Is it in perpetuity? How is that amended? How are licenses added? So, and I'd also like to know how many licenses are currently active. Does anyone know that by chance?
Yes, there are 30 active licenses.
And none of them are inactive or going to be soon.
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. So chapter 118 also calls for a waiting list. Has that been created?
It has, and I also encourage Mr. Patel to put himself on the waiting list to be sure that if something came available, that he would be eligible.
So according to chapter 118, it states that if you're automatically put on the waiting list when you submit your application, if you're not awarded the application. So is that process not being followed?
I will have to see clarity from the clerk's office.
Okay, that'd be great. And then also I need to get a little bit more information regarding the application process, as I mentioned earlier. So it seems that there was some sort of glitch that caused emails to go out very fast time differences. So if it was awarded on a first come, first served basis, wouldn't that be something that the city would make sure goes out more consistently?
They did go out consistently, and the owners were informed at that time that they had to meet all of these certain criteria in order to be eligible to receive the license, and then it would be first come, first served. So they were duly notified in a timely and proper manner.
Okay, so if someone received an email at 12:30 a.m. or submitted their application by 12:30 a.m., I don't know what time they received it, and my clients did not even receive it until an hour later, that's consistent?
Excuse me, Mayor, he's referring to the state gaming, Illinois Gaming Board, when they send out who receives the license from the state.
Madam Attorney, I have no control over what the state of Illinois does, so you would have to take up that issue with them.
Okay,
You cannot apply for a city license without having your state license.
yeah, it seems that the application process, as I said, was inconsistent because applications were accepted incomplete when I heard from the clerk's office that you had to submit payment in order for your application to be evaluated. However, that doesn't seem to be the case.
But you also have to have your state license.
Yes, but you have,
Ma'am, that's inaccurate. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you're getting your information from, but that's not correct.
which part isn't correct.
About receiving incomplete applications and accepting them. We don't approve them until we receive everything that we should.
Okay, do you keep a log of applications submitted and when they're evaluated? Or does the clerk's office?
Yes,
Okay, great, so we'll be requesting that. Have I reached 3 minutes?
yes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it, I'll be reaching out to you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I appreciate the commentary, but I find it most unfortunate when the rules were clearly outlined and specified that people still fail to follow them.
Next I have Lori. Sorry.
Do you want me to follow up on that one?
No, ma'am, you know, your time has expired.
Next I have Lori Straw, 515 West Winter, regarding the casino.
All I want to know is, what happened to it? I mean, I thought it was gonna be starting up by now.
Yes, ma'am. What happened to it is COVID-19. We were literally, Alderman Chairman Moore and I were literally in Chicago preparing to make our presentation for suitability the next day when I got a call saying, Mayor, we apologize, but we're shutting the state down due to COVID. And so there have been no licenses that have been approved yet in the state of Illinois. And so we are waiting like everyone else to have our approval.
Well, if it is approved, where's it gonna be?
Out on Eastgate Drive, just off Woods Road.
Well, how soon do you think you would, when that would be approved?
Much like the previous commenter about licenses, unfortunately, we have no idea when the state will act. We hope that they will act by September, however, we're not certain.
Even though Chicago's already started on theirs?
They have not already started on theirs now.
Oh, they haven't? Okay. Okay, well, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have, unless anyone else would like to speak.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the city council? Anyone else who wishes to address the city council this evening? Yes, Mr. Shaw, please come forward, give your name and address, and just as a reminder, we are limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, I want to speak on about, why they was building a new bus station down on the corner, North and Washington. They put up some shelters. Now, what I'm talking about, them shelters, the bus company's been done a long time. Them shelters are still standing there. And I think you could cut them in to 4 sections and put them in some location where people waiting on bus are standing out in the rain and snow. These are a good opportunity to use them. It's gonna take a little time to work on because they've been kind of beat up and it had plexiglass in there, which is cracked, but they could be salvaged. And I think, like I say, for 4 locations where you have to talk to the bus drivers, where the most people are standing out in this rain and snow, whatever it is. Because that's one of the things I think is important. We need to encourage these people to ride these buses. That's what we really need. There's too much junk out there running around with no insurance. So we need to encourage these people to use these buses. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, did you, Mr. Shaw, sir, did you give us your name and address for the record?
Huh?
Your name and address, please, for the record?
Bus?
Could you please give us your name and address?
Huh?
What's your name and address? Say your name and address.
Oh, I think you don't know me.
Yes, sir, but in order to be legal, we have to enter it into the record.
I think you ought to know me.
Yes, sir, Mr. Shaw, we do.
And I could tell you a lot of time when Eisenhower was mayor about this situation. But, yeah, I think you'll look into it and something will be good to them.
Yes,
Use
sir,
them.
of course. Mr. Shaw, could you please, sir, give us your name and address?
Say your name and address.
Okay, Ed Straw at 515 West Winter.
Excellent, thank you so much, Mr. Shaw, have a great evening.
Okay, I should have done that at first. I'm sorry about that, but,
No, it's okay, sir, you're
anyway,
fine.
yeah, I think you need to look into it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? All right, thank you. That does conclude our audience comment time. We do not have any zoning petitions this evening. However, we do have the payrolls from June 18th and 25th, as well as July 2nd, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those? So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Watts, Bouchard,
Yes.
Patel, Iverson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague. Yes. Troya,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries. We also have the vouchers payable from June 22nd and July 6th, as well as a special run from June 29th. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Yes, Alderman T.
I have a couple of questions on, the payables from 7/6.
Okay.
On page 5 of 10, on those, there were some payments to, Aqua for, at the bottom of the page, on page 5 of 10. There are payments to Aqua for 3362 Lynch Court, 501 Denzel Avenue, and Jackson and Fairchild. I'm just curious to know, are those city-owned properties, and if not, then what, precipitated the need to pay off for these properties?
Sure. I'll defer that to Director Carpenter.
Those are, city-owned properties, and that's irrigation for those.
Thank you. Alderman T, do you have any further questions? No. Thank you so much. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Patel, Iverson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague, Troya,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, the motion carries. At this time, we will receive our Public Works Committee report. Chairman Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. We will be meeting in these chambers 6 o'clock next Tuesday, in-person meeting. So, plan on being here. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, we will receive our Public Services Committee report. Chairman Street.
I'm gonna turn it over to the vice chair, because I was on vacation when all this came up, so.
Okay, 12A is an ordinance amending chapter 118. At this time, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for an approval. Do I have a second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Watts,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Patel, Iverson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague, Troya,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries.
12B is a resolution accepting a grant from the Illinois Housing Development Authority's Abandoned Residential Properties Municipal Relief Program. At this time, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for an approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Bouchard,
Yes.
Patel, Iverson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague, Troya,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries.
12C is the resolution amending fiscal year 2021-22 Illinois Housing Development Authority Abandoned Property Program Fund budget. At this time, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for the approval. Is there a second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Iverson,
Yes.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Troya,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Bonds,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Chow, 13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries.
12D, a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 fiscal budget. At this time, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading, and I ask for the approval. Is there a second?
Madam Vice Chairman,
I'm sorry.
for clarification, are you moving to take Alderman, or items D and E together since they both pertain to as of R?
If there's not any objections, we will take D and E together.
Alderman Trolley, does your second stand? Yes. Very good, thank you. Any discussion or debate? Vice Mayor Iverson.
Can you kind of explain the whole process to me? This was kind of like, what did they find, why they find it, why haven't these people had to pay that?
I'll turn that over to Comptroller Mason.
So ASAVAR is evaluating multiple revenue streams for the city of Danville. So if you, it might be easier if you look at it, if you look at the attachment with both resolutions, they're the same. It breaks down the different revenue streams in the far left-hand column. You can see they've evaluated our AT&T telecommunications cost. There was some savings we could have there. Our Comcast franchise fee, some addresses that should have been included were not on the list, and those were added. Our sales tax, there was a few entities that were not included that were added. Hotel motel tax passed October. We amended our hotel motel tax ordinance to include short-term online rental entities and online travel companies to close the loophole in our ordinance so that big players like Airbnb, Travelocity, that they pay our local tax, whereas previously if they had booked online, we would not receive that tax revenue. Those are the big ones. If you'd like more detail on that, you're more than welcome to contact me and I can provide that to you.
Long story short, Vice Mayor, we're trying to make sure that everyone pays what they're supposed to.
And I'm all for that. I'm just kind of surprised, frankly, by some of the names that they didn't know they were supposed to pay this, or?
We shouldn't discuss this. It's technically private.
Well, you have to be careful. Vice Mayor, or Vice Chairman.
These things, these fines and stuff, and, the payment to, this Danville, or how do you say it? Have we collected the money and the taxes and the whatever already, or are we paying them ahead of us receiving the payments?
We pay our fees to ASAVAR after the revenue is already collected. So we actually provide the returns to ASAVAR. They calculate it it's a 45% fee for 3 years. And so they calculate their fee based on the revenues we report to them. So yes, they've already been received.
Okay, because one of them says July of 2021, and that must not over with yet.
That's the date the invoices due.
Okay. That's it.
I think that's, yes, Chairman Schuster.
Is this gonna hurt us in any way when we get ready to do our audit? No?
It's actually good because, you know, before we may add a note about uncollected, potential uncollected revenues, and now we're making sure we. Any further questions for the comptroller? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Troya,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Bertel, Iverson,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries.
12F is a presentation for the schedule of our 2021 tax levy and our 2022-2023 budget. I will turn this over to the mayor for discussion.
Actually, I will, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, but I will turn that over to the comptroller and then just add a little bit of commentary on that.
I don't have anything getting prepared for the budget schedule, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, what are you gonna do with that one?
As you can see, we're getting started on heavy next week, so it's gonna be a hot summer in more ways than one. Budget meetings can be very tedious and taxing, as you all know, that have been with us for a while. However, it's probably one of the most important things that we do as a city, because it's not our money. It's the people's money that we are taking care of, so we have to make sure that we're good stewards of it and that we spend it wisely. So, a lot of time in my conference room, and guys, I might try to get us some candy or something this year to make sure no one passes out, so. Does anyone have any questions regarding the budget and levy schedule? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, that concludes the public service, committee.
Awesome, thank you, Vice Chairman. Good job. At this time, we do have items of information. First, what I want to bring before us is that item A, the Garfield Park Municipal School, the Garfield Park Municipal Pool discussion. Say that 5 times in a row without messing it up like I have. One of the things that you all had requested from me was comparison of other municipal pools in our area. And so what I've provided for you is a chart which kind of shows a couple of things. First, the venue or venues, so you can see we have in the location, you can see we have our pool compared to those in Champaign, Urbana, Normal, Bloomington, Decatur, the other large cities in central Illinois. You can see the type of pool that they have there, whether it be pool or slides, just a pool, whether it's an aquatic center. You can see the fees that folks pay, whether they're residential versus non-residential. You can, there's a column covering the annual pass, column with the annual expense, column with the annual revenue, as well as municipal contribution, and the percentage of the municipal contribution is made. I would note that these are just the taxes that are collected to help support these endeavors. You can see that there are 2 facilities, Crystal Lake Aquatic Center in Urbana, as well as Showroom Aquatic Center in Champaign. These do not include the money that they receive from private support, so from foundations and or donors every year to help support it. So for example, if you look at Crystal Lake and you look at, they spend $421,000 a year to operate. The initial contribution is $112,000, which leaves $308,000. Some of that revenue is not from tax, it's not from fees, it is from the private foundation that helps support it. I would also like to note, I forgot to put this on there, but many of these, ours does not include any kind of maintenance, ongoing maintenance, major maintenance or equipment, whereas a number of these other places, especially the centers, do. You will see also that Decatur has just opened a new park called Splash Cove. Their admission prices, you will see, went up by 67% and doubled for non-residents, and an annual passes also went up substantially as well. I would also like to note that a lot of the money that was used to build this facility came from private foundations, and they have private foundation money support to continue to operate the pool. Long story short, we need to provide our engineering staff some direction as to which way we think they should go, on whether or not we have a refurbished pool that's like new, with maybe a new bathing facility, or and also 2 slides, or we build a new facility. As a reminder, 30-year cost of a refurbished facility we believe to be approximately $3.8 million. That does not include additional changes to the bathhouse. And then a completely new facility, we expect to be between $11 and $13 million. So you're looking at a difference of $7 to $9 million in between the 2 things. At this time, I would open it up for discussion prior to taking a straw poll as to which direction we should go. Yes, Chairman Ford.
Mayor, I believe they did sonar thing and found out the crack underneath is not as bad as what we thought, right?
Right.
The void underneath.
There is a void underneath, Chairman.
Anything that doesn't need filling can be filled with local fill. I'm assuming that any refurbishing would include new plumbing
Yes, it would.
and that, we'd have new gutters and things to catch the water that would go into the skimmers and different things. And there'd be certain layers of the filtration system, pumping station.
Yes, sir.
I personally think it's probably cheaper to refurbish in the long run. We can always plan down the road for something to do, a brand new facility, but, you know, I don't think we'll ever get this type of support. We're gonna go charge the amount of money, some of these other places are charging. We don't have a foundation that's gonna kick in $100,000 a year to help with operating costs. I do think we need to refurbish the painting, shower house and different things. I think that cost needs to be looked at. And also the concession area, just to, make it a little, we can always put slides up. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Chairman. And just for clarity, this proposal, the initial proposal does include 2 new slides, one that's kind of curvy and one that's a little bit more straightforward. There's also one other thing that I forgot to mention that Engineer Cole brought to my attention and that I think is important for us to consider. If we dig a completely new pool, or if, let's say you all had asked me to look into a lazy river, Decatur's lazy river costs them $3 million. And the annual upkeep for those, that increases your upkeep by quite a bit. You also have to hire additional staff, they told me, because wherever the lazy river bends, you have to have people there monitoring to make sure that no one gets trapped, so you do have to have additional staff as well, but theirs cost, I think it was $3.1 million, they told me. So the other thing we have to consider is if we do start digging on that site, environmental concerns. What kind of things are we, given that it's surrounded by factories, what might the EPA say or cause us to do, and how could that affect the whole project and possibly even, lead to closure of what we already have, which concerns me greatly. Any other, Alderman Trolio?
Yeah, I think the $3.8 million included having a locker room refurbished.
That includes completely refurbishing the locker room. However, several of you had indicated that we should completely rebuild or redo the bathhouses. If we completely redid it, then that would be a different price.
Okay. You're welcome.
Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Brown.
I see the figures. Have we looked into, other than the Danville YM helping, have we looked, are there any other foundations that we could get to help support us?
I do believe, Alderman, that there are foundations that might help us some with the upfront costs, but I don't know of any foundation that's going to give you ongoing increase support every year, and that's what concerns me more. For example, when I was at the Boys and Girls Club, Mr. Hedler gave us a grant for operations, but it was only for a certain number of years. And that's been the case with most of the allocations that he's given, I believe, either a one-time lump sum to help create it or a couple of years of operations.
But we haven't looked into it so far with this particular project. And you said at the beginning, you were wanting to fund this project by some of the reserve fund and
Yes.
the other. Now, we did get a copy of the guidelines for the money we received from the state with the rescue plan.
Yes, ma'am.
So, with that, you indicated you'd like to use some of that money for other things, other than just the pool. Were you planning on using any of that money at all for the pool? Because according to some of the guidelines that I read, I think this pool kind of fits it.
So I do believe that we could certainly use some of the money from the Recovery Act for this, Alderman Brown. And I think that we probably will have to use some of it, simply because if we're looking at $3.8 million with just a completely refurbished bathhouse, If we're gonna build a new one, I don't know exactly what that would be, but I would say minimally several $100,000 that we haven't accounted for in expenditures yet. But in terms of, all of this money has to be spent by December 31st of 2024. And so again, it wouldn't be, it would provide an ongoing source of revenue, so we would have to make up the difference.
Sure.
annually.
Understand that. I think all of you know, Alderman knows where I stand with this. I still believe that, I'll say this, the day we're over there for the groundbreaking for the development of the, Hall Riverfront and just listening to, the excitement about something new in Danville, and this is the thing, I'm still thinking about. Sometimes we just settle for mediocrity because we think this is all we can do. And I know we talk about taxpayers' money. That's why I asked the question about using some of this recovery plan money. We're talking about maybe redoing a pool, the shower house, or not redoing it. And it's just still things that I think if we just do the whole new thing, and I believe we talk about the budget, and that could be, may not be finished with it by that time, it's 2024, but also at the same time, I just still believe we get something new versus, just continuing to, just continuing to repair. I'm just still, not for the refurbishing. I still would like to see us support, and I know money is a big thing, and we have to be wise and use our money, like you just said, be good stewards of the people's money. But sometimes we hurt ourselves in the long run. And what I mean by this, we need something fresh. Even though the ongoing cost of the health, the staff and all, I don't think that was gonna take it. Eventually, we're gonna, need more help, I would say, over there anyway. But, and then we even thought about a different place, and we haven't thoroughly looked into all of this because we're on a timeline, we wanna get this, taken care of by August so we can do what we have to do. So, again, I still would like to see a new facility. Whether we get it or not, that's what I still will support. That's all I'm gonna say this time.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Yes, Alderman Luther.
What do you anticipate would be the anticipated annual expense for the refurbished pool versus a yearly?
The only difference that I think that we'll have, Alderman Ludwig, would be, we've got to, part of the reason why we are where we are is that for the better part of 60 years, we didn't do the kind of maintenance and upkeep that should have been done. And so that allowed the pool to fail faster. I can't remember which community it was, but one of these places still have a 60-year-old pool that they operate, and it still looks pretty good and runs pretty well, So I think the major difference that I would anticipate is that we're going to have more money for maintenance, so that we can actually do it right and not piecemeal. I think that our staff did the best that they could in the past with what they were provided, but they weren't provided the proper resources to take care of it properly. And so it's gonna be our job to be sure that we make sure that that doesn't happen, so that folks aren't sitting here in 30 years having these same kind of conversations that we're having now. I don't have an exact estimate. I know that I think it's usually like 5 or 10% of your budget you should be putting away every year, and for maintenance for your home. So I would guess it would be at least the same. So if based on that, if we said 5%, it'd be around $5,500 a year. If we said 10%, it'd be around $10,000 a year. But goodness, I wish that I had all the things that I pulled off. But two of these places actually have in their annual budget, they set aside money. One sets aside money for maintenance. Well, all of them set aside money for maintenance except for one. And then there's another one that even sets aside money for a new pool in the future. They set aside a certain percentage of their funding every year. Sure. Vice Chairman, did you?
Yes, refurbishing the bathhouse, do we know what that will consist of?
My understanding was that refurbishing the bathhouse would make it completely ADA accessible and much nicer than we have now. I don't know, I don't remember all the specs. I know that was sent to y'all as a plan,
I'm sorry.
but I don't remember all the specs. But I know it's basically all new, everything except for walls. That's the way I understood it. New plumbing, new fixtures, new toilets, that kind of thing.
And that is block, and the blocks, they're secure, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, correct?
Yeah, there's nothing that came up in the initial study, so, whatever modifications we need to make would be done. And there could be some minor changes, but, it's not gonna be significant, probably, so.
Yes, Vice Mayor Anderson.
I'm like Alderman Brown in that I'm concerned that we could say either or. You either have to do the current pool or a whole new big exciting new pool. I don't know why there can't be more of a middle ground. After Director Carpenter took me and Alderman Troy took on a tour of the pool, I saw what they're concerned about, but also there's more than enough space in that area for a lazy river around where the pool is. And since you're going to be using the stuff already there, pipes and equipment, I don't know why it would cost $3 million to do that. And then if you made it with that and you made it attractive again, and you made more signage so that people knew what the pool was, I'm surprised other people have no idea even what the pool is because you can't see it from the street. We could make it a destination place again, and that would attract, we wouldn't have to up the admission a lot if we're getting more people to use it. So it just seems like, the study, I really did a lot of work, but a little more study on whether you could put some sort of lazy river in or something else that would attract people. The slides are a good idea. Slides look great. I think that would help considerably. And I think improving it would help bring people in, as the splash park connected to it. So a lot of it is there. We just need to do, I think, one more step to make it just a little bit better to bring some new folks in. And with the money from the American Recovery Act, as you read through the guidelines, it looks for short-term projects that bring long-term improvements. The pool is certainly that kind of an issue. And I hope we can use some of that money and make it, like Brenda says, take one more step beyond just what we've got to make it a little bit better, which will help us in the long run.
Vice Mayor, I just want to reiterate that the lazy river in Decatur was $3.1 million. You also have environmental concerns as well, and then the long-term maintenance of it. Right now we are losing almost $60,000 a year on the pool. That's the way how much we're subsidizing it. Any addition that would cause us to have more maintenance, more staff, also would add to that long-term support cost.
What was it, $3 million for the lazy river? Was that a brand new lazy river independently? Because I'm thinking if you build it into facilities we already have, it wouldn't cost that. I'm sure it'll cost a bunch of money, but maybe not that much.
This was adding it on to, they constructed the rest of the new facility, and then this was adding on to what was already there. It was $3.1 million.
Mayor, what was the environmental concern? I mean, since we already have a pool there, we're gonna put a line in it. So what's the environmental concern?
I'll let.
Yeah, I just wanted to know exactly.
So that's just something that we wanted to throw a cautionary thing, if we want to get moving it, that's a historically industrial area over there. And if we move it to a substantially different location, we're gonna need to test the soils. And if we run into environmental, let's just say somebody spilled oil or spilled whatever, we don't know that that's there, so we don't wanna create false concern about what's there. But there is a possibility that something would come up and that we might have to haul off the soils to a completely different disposal site or something like that. We really don't know. That's just an unknown that, given the nature of the site, we want to be cautious about, because it's not a guarantee that you'd be able to put it where you want on site without environmental issues. So, I mean, just, you could have leaching from adjacent sites too, based on their historic usage, it could be in the groundwater and, move somewhere else as well.
Well, what about the existing pool now? I mean, everything is okay there with the environmental?
I mean, that's an existing site. We didn't do any testing of anything. If your pool is, in most conditions, you're gonna have exfiltration or loss of water from the pool, which you won't be creating, you won't have environmental concerns coming into the pool. So you'd rather have that situation than leakage into the pool. With a liner, that wouldn't be a concern, going forward. So, and it's not currently a concern when the pool's full either. So.
Yes, Alderman G.
I have just a few questions. So, it says here that Decatur opened a new Splash Cove Center. Do you know the cost for that? Did you look at the cost for that?
The total cost, I want to say was, no, I did not see the total cost. All I know is that when I talked to their director, I said, well, do you guys have a lazy river? And he said, yes. And I'm like, well, what did it cost you to put it in? He was like, it was a little more than $3 million. He said, we had to complete the first phase and then add that on. Because they were going to open last summer. But then COVID, they didn't, of course. So they then added the lazy river this past year.
Okay.
So all of them know I don't know.
Okay, because one of the things that I was hoping to be able to see is, when we'd be able to compare, in the last conversation that we had about the pool, we talked about the centers in Champaign, and I appreciate the expenses versus annual revenue information for each of those. I would love to see what the cost is for a center as compared to a pool and to a lazy river, so that we can look at all different possibilities for what we might do for the future, since this is going to be a very long-term, lasting change that we make for our community. The other questions that I have, just based on the other things that have come up already, I think.
Pardon me, Alderman T, is it okay to address that, or would you like to give all of your questions first and then?
You can go ahead and address that.
Sure. So, we're looking at a minimum of almost $11 million now. A lazy river, we know that's just to kind of put back what we have roughly with 2 slides. A lazy river, we know, is a little more than $3 million. So you're looking at $14 million, and then whatever else all the other things would be. So, I mean, I would say you're very easily looking upwards of $15 million, and then the annual maintenance of all the new things.
Absolutely. Well, possibly. So the other questions that I have would be, one of the things that I think came up as Alderman Iverson, Vice Mayor Iverson was speaking, you were talking about, well, there will be increased costs. But one of the questions that I have is, for the people who did upgrades in their communities, what was their increased revenue? Because I think that we're looking at increased costs because we know that they're gonna be, yes, it requires new staff and all of these things, but usually when you do upgrades, you also attract new customers, or in this case, new residents, to be able to come in and use the facilities. So I was wondering if there's any analysis that was done in any of those other communities that provided upgrades, how much their revenues increased along with the cost increases.
Alderman, I did not do that analysis. However, what I can point you to is Crystal Lake Aquatic Center and Sherwood Aquatic Center, where they did do those upgrades. You can see the losses that they're operating at. So although yes, funding certainly increased, it did not increase enough to cover their expenses. Also, as a reminder, their revenues do include private foundation money that is not shown here.
Absolutely. And then the last question is just a follow-up on Alderman Love's question about the difference in cost between maintenance between refurbished versus new. Would we be able to have some analysis of that for us to make a sound decision before we vote on this?
Sure, they provided that for you actually. I'm sorry, you mean the maintenance?
The maintenance.
and maintenance. I do believe that what was provided included the maintenance,
Yeah,
right?
so basically what we provided was, for a refurbished versus a new, most of the costs are the same. The operating costs, the cost of the lifeguards, the cost of the building maintenance, the cost of that stuff, for a comparable thing, essentially the same. You've got a comparison of one, you're painting a concrete wall versus you're replacing a liner every 15 years. Those costs are very comparable. I don't have a specific number to tell you as far as what it costs to maintain the mechanical systems and all the other stuff, because one versus the other, essentially the same cost. It's just, I think that your rule of thumb of, let's say it's 5% of the cost. If the pool's 3 million, 10% of that cost is 300,000, 5% is 150,000 of maintenance dollars plus operating expenditures and stuff. So it becomes apparent that we might have been about $150,000 a year short on what we should have been investing in the pool, all along. So if I was going to guess, that's a ballpark to start it. $150,000 to $300,000 a year if you want to do it right.
Those were all the questions, that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman T. Yes, Alderman McCown.
Well, I just want to say that, the neighborhood still bothers me. I think that's one of the reasons why, people weren't going there as much as we thought they should be, because mom's not gonna take people in an area where they got factories that or buildings that are shut down, old roads and stuff like this. I'm just afraid that if we're gonna redo this area, we're gonna have to redo the pool, we're gonna have to redo the whole area to entice people to show up. Where if you go to another area, you might be able to entice more people to show up, because it's an area, more of an open park area or something like that, than with the old brick walls around them and the old dilapidated streets and stuff like that. That kind of scares me as starting off behind the 8 ball again, with redoing this area. And we do not know what has been in these factories and stuff. Was the old glove factories shut down, and their property, and don't know what's come from the old railroad lines and stuff in that area. That's kind of scary, to even think what would be there over all these years.
Thank you, Alderman O'Kane. What I would say is, pertaining to your first comment, I would offer you some emails and Facebook posts that I received from folks who live on the north end, who tell me if I don't get this pool open, they're gonna throw me out in the street. I think you are getting, I don't believe that there's anyone I won't say there's not anyone. I would say there are very few people who won't come because of the location of the pool. I think that we've done a good job of maintaining it and operating it so that folks come based on the amount of feedback that I've received, both electronically via email, in person, and also from Facebook comments.
We do need a pool, I agree with that. I just don't want it. We need to look at more than just a pool. We need to look at the whole area around it to entice people to show up there.
Yes, I can tell you, some of the things that we are looking at are, right now we own the lot to, let's see, I want to get this right. We own the lot to the north of it. We also own the lot to the west, east, right, Carl? And you'll notice there are lots of trees and stuff like that. Part of the plan, and no matter what we do, if it's here, is to get rid of that, to improve the parking so that there's parking closer to the gate, and things like that as well. So, absolutely.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
one of the things that, Alderman O'Kane brought up, has the city looked at any other available property the city owns for to relocate it?
I mean, I would say we own all, every park that we have could be an option to look, except for Lincoln and, Lincoln and neither Lincoln nor Ellsworth would work. One because of all the acorns and roots and trees, and the other because of the flooding. But, certainly we could look at other parks that we own, in town, that there would be a number of options. Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, I was just going back to, in your outlook, there is June 9th is when, Sam sent a pictures of farmer groups, design before and after. And that was it. Anderson Aquatic Center renovations and additions, and it shows the before and afters of what they did there, just by restoring and putting different amenities in. And getting back to, some discussion, you put a shovel in the ground, EPA's will be in there, and we could end up closing what's there.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
I
if
mean,
you look at some
you
other
remember
place.
when the black printing was there, all the chemicals they dumped into the ground, the warehouses and things that have chemicals in it, that's all spilled to the ground during the fires and different things, so I mean, ground all around that is got some contamination.
That's why I said, we looked at any other locations, any other sites.
But you take those guys first, won't you?
Hardly.
Yeah.
Yes, Alderman Buckley.
What were the pool slides, are we gonna be digging?
We shouldn't have to do anything more than surface.
And that won't require any evaluation at all?
So we would still have to put foundations in. I mean, that's a small area relative to like the size of a pool. So even if we had contamination, that's something that we could handle. And, you know, regardless, there's obviously discussion of this. Perhaps we should explore, you know, before we like invest mega dollars there either way. What's the environmental condition of the existing site, just for a quick peace of mind? So we better understand that. But yeah, it's as far as overall size goes, a lot smaller footprint. You know, a couple tandem loads of dirt versus the size of a swimming pool of dirt that you might have to deal with the contamination in. So.
Mayor,
Yes.
before we even do a straw poll, could we look, you mentioned Douglas Park, or mentioned some other location, give us an option?
I mean, we can put it wherever you want. I think right now, Alderman Brown, what we're not trying to do is decide where, but what. Either do we want a refurbished pool, do we want a new pool or something between? I mean, we can, if you all tell me we're gonna have a new pool, absolutely, we'll do a community assessment to determine where it would be, where the best place for it would be. Absolutely, but I don't wanna just randomly say a place that I don't know if it's prepared for it or not.
Right, I mean, but I guess could you just, we got people back here, we got Carl Carpenter, we got our engineer, and all of the people that have been looking at this before, so could they be the same ones to go and look at these other sites, and then that way we know if we're having problems with EPA or whatever. I know they wanna get an answer quickly, but I think we need to take our time on this.
But we've been at it for, I think, 4 or 5 months.
I know we haven't been, but that's not a long time.
Right, but the longer that we're closed, the longer that it stays closed,
I understand, but I'm just asking if it would be possible.
That's not something that I would intend to do. I think we need to provide them some direction. If we decide that we want a new pool, absolutely, Alderman Brown, I would be glad to look into that. But I don't think that that's, right now, we're trying to determine if we want a new pool or.
I could,
We have to remember the spray grounds there too, that would have to go wherever.
I get the answer, I'm still, I guess we just have to take a straw poll if we want it or we don't. If we want a new one, we're gonna refurbish the old one, that's what you want. But I still think we need to look into some other things, maybe take a straw poll, and then that'll let us know what we're gonna do after that, so.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Is there any further discussion on this? At this time, I would like to take a straw poll, Madam Clerk, as she calls your name. Please indicate whether you would at this time, before exploring a refurbished pool, one that's redone and like new, or building a new pool. And if you have any caveat, you can please say that at that time as well. Alderman York?
Alderman Williams,
A new pool,
Alderman Troya,
refurbished.
Alderman T,
No, but I need more information.
Alderman Ludwig,
Refurbished or not completely decided. Any more information about the park that could possibly possess the new pool. And if that would have any implications.
Alderman Pickering,
Refurbished.
Alderman Strebe,
Refurbished.
Alderman Ford,
Refurbished and maybe think about setting up a fund to build a new pool in the future.
I agree with that.
Alderman O'Kane,
I think it needs to be moved to someplace new.
so new.
Yes.
Alderman Brown,
New with, I still like to see, staff if necessary to look at a new location, and I think we could all be, well, I could, some others give a better answer on that, so also new.
thank you. Vice Mayor Iverson,
I agree with Mrs. Brown. It's hard to say exactly what I want to do now because I don't think we've gotten all of the information like that. I fear the old one, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And I don't think that's what we want. We don't want the pool to be what it was. So at this point, I'd have to say a new pool, although I could talk to Leah with some other stuff.
Alderman Bouchard,
At this time, I agree with reestablishing us. Mike Bird took the words out of my mouth about setting up some kind of a pool fund. But I like that current location myself. I was pretty impressed with it the day I went and looked at it. As far as location, I know the facility is in dire need, but right now it's refurbished.
Alderman Watts,
Refurbished. I still feel that we really need to consider the money. I'm sorry if it looks like that all I care about is the money. That's not it at all. I care about the children and their families of this city, but I also care about the taxpayers of this city. And, I'm refurbished.
thank you. I didn't know if you wanted me to add them up.
Madam Clerk, is you have 8 towards refurbishment and 5 towards new.
That's correct, Mayor.
At this time, we will have the staff proceed with pursuing refurbishment. We will have the staff proceed with looking into refurbishment. All right.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Will you have the staff look at the environment before they spin too many wheels in that area though?
Yes, absolutely. As the engineer indicated, we will look into that. Yes, sir. Are there any other items of information for the good of the cause? Yes, Alderman Brown.
I do have one, Mayor. I don't know if anyone noticed, and I think the chief is still back there. There's a lot of ATVs on the streets. Are they allowed on the streets? My thinking that they're not allowed. The other Sunday evening, I was at Lincoln Park listening to the municipal band, and you could hardly hear it for a period of time. They were running, they were so fast, children had to run and get out of the way. They were all in the grass, on the parking areas, they were just wild all over the place. And then
Do you recall, were they like more of the motorbikes that people are riding now?
these aren't motorbikes, these were ATVs.
Like 4-wheelers?
Yes, 4-wheelers, not motorbikes.
Okay.
These are 4-wheelers.
As a matter of fact, I emailed Chief Gates about the same thing in my neighborhood about, was that 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Because there were people driving up and down English Street, flying down English Street,
That-
on ATV.
That's where when I left the park, I had to stop and move over because they were riding double. They were just so fast, and then they were throwing like sparklers across the street, and that was near like English and Chandler. It was, I said a prayer as I went through there, Lord, get me out of here. I'm serious. Because with those ATVs and with 4-wheelers and throwing the sparklers, whew, it was rough. But then, I was somewhere today, and I saw these big four-wheelers, and there were 3 people on it. So I don't know, then someone said, well, you know, the city doesn't provide a place for them to ride them. I said, yeah, but you don't ride them in the street. I mean, it's against the law to do that. So, well, they said, well, there's a new proprietor or someone selling them. And they think that the city should provide a track for them. I said, no. You no, you all need to be in the street with these things. And you know, I know she didn't like that, but it's horrible. And that's not just on English, it's on a lot of areas. They're just wild and they're right. And it's so unsafe because those things are easy to turn if you don't know how to really handle it.
Right.
And, yeah, it's getting worse.
Well, I'm sure she will get folks on.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
To follow up with what she said, are they also not permitted in the parks, correct?
No, they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor. I'm sorry, but Chairman.
Tell me whatever you want.
I'm used to seeing you guys Brady Bunch style now.
I just want to let everybody know that Thursday afternoon or Thursday night, we're having a splash and dash out at the Grotto. They're gonna serve food, the splash and dash. We've got 10 pilots coming in to do it. It's not sanctioned with the others that they got planned for the weekend, which is probably gonna be made out on Saturday and Sunday. But, I think they had their last meeting at 7:15 that night, so they'll probably be up in the air and going through competition about 7:30 or quarter till 8. So, there is a $5 cover charge to get in. I think up to the age of 10, I think it is $3 for kids. Why not enjoy yourselves? It's $1 million view out there over there.
Thank you, Chairman.
Maybe.
Yes, sir.
Also, this Thursday night, our Holiday Hills Neighborhood Association will be meeting Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And Natasha Elliott, who's with the city, is going to be giving pamphlets out comparison to neighborhoods. I think there's 40 neighborhoods in the city of Danville, if I'm not mistaken. And she's going to kind of be giving some information about rating how the neighborhoods are, not the associations, because they're not all active at this time, but it's the neighborhood itself. And I think on the housing and just events and just different items that she's going to be sharing with us. I invite anyone to come out for that.
Once we finalize the document, then we'll likely be having Natasha come to give a presentation for the council on that as well. So that way you all have the information and then we can provide it to the community as well.
One other question, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
The community day is Sunday.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
case of rain, is there another date or is there, side or what?
Administrator Finch is out, so I am not certain. However, I will check with her and I'll email you all.
Okay.
Yeah, the other Sundays when it rains, it rains. But always wait until after we're finished serving.
Yeah, I know, that's what I said in the
Your
past,
Honor.
but I didn't know when you read the forecast.
And usually when you sent us, it said that if it rains, the food and the program will go on in the pavilion.
Okay.
Now, that'd be a little tight, but we should all be there as a community, right? And the balloon classic is Friday and Saturday, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about Sunday rain, and Friday looks good.
Friday will be good.
Balloon
I was
is back on Friday.
kind of putting the deal in with the picnic on Sunday, so.
Very good. Alderman Williams.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to note that since our last council meeting, Congress has signed and President Biden has passed off on it that June the 19th is Juneteenth Day. And it's a national day to recognize the plight of the slaves back in 1863 that were declared free but never notified for 2 years. So this is going to be a national holiday to celebrate all Americans being free, to celebrate freedom. I think we here in the city need to, get our budget and everything geared up for some sort of celebration, since we want people to celebrate that this year. my solution to that.
Well, maybe we might be able to combine our community day and this event, together and have a big day for next year. Yes, sir, great idea. Alderman Vaughn.
I would just like to, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but, I would like to once again thank the police department. I've now rode all 3 shifts, 8-hour shifts, and, interesting, very, very interesting, and, an eye-opener, and not only into the community, but into our police officers. We have some, I rode with Verge and Starsky, and they're 2 fine officers, and we came in contact with many of the others, and all were, watching them, and I got out of the car and stayed 2 steps behind them the whole way, and I think that it said.
Chief, we better work on that for the fire. Maybe we need to do about 10 steps.
I wouldn't, they said that you've got protection if you're right behind you.
Right around your jet walk.
But they really care about us. They really do. I saw these young men, treating everybody with respect. When they were respected, they respected the people. They really did. And I appreciated seeing that because, you know, you hear a lot of things, but unfortunately, most of what we hear is false. So I would really, encourage any of the aldermen, they said, well, how many hours you gonna ride? I said, so you kick me out of the car. But I stuck it out the whole time, and I would really encourage any of the aldermen that, would like to really learn about not their ward necessarily, but the whole city to ride, take a ride with them for a few hours and see what they do and how they really put themselves into situations that most of us would never want to be in. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you.
Alderman Trotter.
I do truly regret to inform everybody, but my family will be moving from Ward 6 to Ward 7, so unless things change, this will probably be my last meeting. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with everybody. I think the department heads do a great job. I really enjoyed getting to know all the aldermen too.
Thank you, Alderman. We wish you the best. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Been moved and seconded, any discussion or debate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.